Rainy night, luxury parking garage. A group of wealthy young men corner a young woman in a black evening dress. Ethan Ward, 35, single dad in a worker's jacket, walks his daughter Maya, 8, home after his night shift. Seeing the situation, he quietly tells his daughter to step back, then steps forward, blocking their path. Pick on someone else. They laugh mockingly. Who do you think you are? The trembling woman drops her clutch purse, and a black card slides out. Light catches the engraved name, Ethan Ward. Ethan Ward fixes electrical systems by day and works security at night. A schedule that leaves little time for anything except raising 8-year-old Maya. At 35, he's learned to function on 4 hours of sleep and endless coffee, but he's never complained. Maya needs stability, and stability costs money. 8 years ago, before Maya was born, Ethan drove city buses on the night route. He still keeps his old bus driver badge in his wallet, a worn piece of metal that Maya has declared a family treasure. "Daddy, why do you keep that old badge?" she asked once while waiting for their bus. "Because it reminds me that helping people get where they need to go is important work," he'd answered, "even if nobody notices." Maya inherited her mother's curiosity and her father's sense of justice. At 8, she already asked difficult questions. Why do people pick on others who can't fight back? Ethan does his best to answer honestly while preserving some innocence. Tonight, they're walking home from the downtown office building where Ethan works overnight security. Maya often stays with him during school holidays, sleeping on a small cot in the security office while he monitors cameras. It's not ideal, but better than leaving her alone. Isabella Reinhardt represents everything Ethan's world doesn't intersect with. At 27, she's the youngest CEO in her family's financial empire, managing billions in assets. What most people don't know is that Isabella's rise to power came through tragedy, a kidnapping 8 years ago that taught her the difference between inherited wealth and earned survival. Tonight's charity gala was supposed to be routine. Smile for cameras, write checks, network with donors. Instead, she finds herself trapped in a parking garage by 3 men who think her money makes her an object rather than a person. The humiliation begins the moment Ethan steps between Isabella and her harassers. "Look what we have here," one sneers, recording with his phone. "Working man thinks he's a superhero." The live stream chat fills with mockery. "Single dad cosplay hero. Does he think this is a movie?" Someone calls security, but Ethan doesn't back down. His voice stays calm. "I said pick on someone else." "Or what?" The largest steps forward. "You'll fix our electrical problems?" They laugh while their phones capture everything. Ethan can see Maya behind him, clutching his old bus driver badge like a talisman. She's learned to recognize when her father is preparing to do something brave and potentially dangerous. "Ba, they're recording you," Maya whispers in Vietnamese. Ethan nods, acknowledging both the warning and the choice he's making anyway. Some moments matter more than consequences. That's when Isabella's hands start shaking. The stress, the cameras, the realization that her private vulnerability is becoming public entertainment. It all becomes too much. Her clutch purse slips from trembling fingers, spilling contents across concrete. Among the scattered items, one thing catches the light in a way that makes everyone freeze. A matte black card with no visible markings except for an engraved name that seems to glow under the fluorescent lights. Ethan Ward. The live stream chat goes silent. The 3 harassers stop laughing. Maya stops fidgeting with the bus badge. Isabella stares at the man who just protected her, seeing his name carved into the most exclusive financial instrument in the world. And for the first time in 8 years, she's no longer the only person who knows the story of how that card came to exist. If your name suddenly appeared on the world's most powerful card, what would you do? Comment your answer and subscribe to see what happened next. The parking garage transforms into a social media circus within minutes. The livestream viewers explode with confusion and mockery as the hashtag Black Card Night begins trending across platforms. Single dad dropped his fake identity card. Photoshop skills getting better these days. This is the worst flex I've ever seen. The 3 harassers recover from their shock quickly, sensing an opportunity to regain control of the narrative. The largest one, who's been live streaming everything, zooms his camera on the black card. Hold up, hold up, he says to his audience, voice dripping with sarcasm. This working man thinks he owns a Reinhardt black card. Do you guys see this? The delusion is real. His friends burst into laughter, encouraging the performance. One of them picks up the card, examining it under the parking garage lights. Wow, the engraving looks almost real. Where did you get this printed, buddy? Kinko's? Ethan stands perfectly still, his expression unchanged. He's learned from years of night shift work that sometimes the best response to aggression is calm observation. Let people reveal themselves. But Maya isn't used to seeing her father publicly humiliated. She steps closer to him, her small hand finding the bus driver badge in his jacket pocket. Bah, why are they being mean about your name? The innocence of the question cuts through the mockery. Even some live stream viewers pause their cruel comments, struck by the sight of a child defending her father. Isabella, meanwhile, has gone completely pale. She recognizes the card because she's seen it exactly 3 times in her life. When her grandfather issued the very first one to himself, when her father received the second upon inheriting the company, and when she personally authorized the third to be created 8 years ago. There are only 3 Reinhardt black cards in existence. No exceptions, no duplicates, no fakes sophisticated enough to fool her. The security guards from the building arrive, drawn by reports of a disturbance. They immediately assess the situation. Expensive cars, well-dressed young men with phones, a working-class man with a child, and a woman in evening wear. Sir, we're going to need you to move along, the lead guard says to Ethan, making the assumption that seems most logical. This is a private garage for building residents and their guests. Actually, Isabella's voice cuts through the noise, though it trembles slightly. The card is real, and the name is correct. The statement lands like a bomb. The live stream chat goes silent for a full 10 seconds before exploding with disbelief. The harasser holding the card nearly drops it. What are you talking about? This guy drives a bus or fixes toilets or something. Look at him. I am looking at him, Isabella says, her voice growing stronger. And I'm telling you that black card belongs to Ethan Ward. Maya looks up at her father with confusion and pride. Bah, is that really yours? Ethan stares at the card, then at Isabella, genuine bewilderment replacing his earlier calm. I've never seen this card before in my life. The admission seems to vindicate the harassers. See, even he admits it's not his. But Isabella steps forward, her CEO training finally overriding her emotional shock. Mr. Ward, you wouldn't have seen it because the card was issued in your name, but held in trust by our family foundation. It was a private matter. The parking garage goes dead quiet except for the sound of rain pattering on concrete and the distant hum of traffic. Even the live stream audience seems to be holding its breath. A private matter about what? One of the harassers demands, sensing his viral moment slipping away. Isabella looks at Ethan, then at Maya, then at the cameras still recording everything. This wasn't how she'd imagined this moment, if she'd ever imagined it at all. 8 years ago, Mr. Ward saved my life. My family issued this card as a guarantee, a promise that if he ever needed anything, the full resources of the Reinhardt family would be available to him. The revelation hits differently than anyone expected. Instead of vindication for Ethan, it raises more questions. Why would one of the richest families in the world owe a bus driver anything? What kind of life-saving situation creates a debt worth an unlimited credit line? Maya tugs on her father's jacket. Bah, you saved someone? Ethan's expression shifts as fragments of memory surface. A rainy night 8 years ago, a young woman, screaming, blood, his bus radio crackling with emergency codes. You, he says quietly, looking at Isabella with new recognition. You were the girl, the kidnapping. Isabella nods, tears now flowing freely despite the cameras in the audience and the 3 men who are finally beginning to understand they've made a terrible mistake. He found me, she says to the live stream audience, her voice barely above a whisper. When the police couldn't, when my family's security couldn't, when everyone else had given up, a bus driver working the night shift heard my screams and saved my life. The parking garage fills with the kind of silence that comes when people realize they've been witnessing something sacred being treated as entertainment. The lead harasser, still holding the black card, stares at it with new understanding. His live stream audience, which had been mocking a working man's supposed delusions, is now witnessing the revelation of genuine heroism. Maya presses closer to her father, the bus driver badge warm in her small fist. She doesn't fully understand what's happening, but she knows her father is good and brave, and somehow this beautiful, sad woman knows it too. Type shocked if you think the truth behind the card will change everything. The parking garage has become an impromptu press conference, with phones capturing every word as Isabella makes a decision that will change multiple lives forever. "I want to show you something," she says, reaching into her purse with trembling hands. She pulls out a faded Polaroid photograph, its edges worn from years of careful handling. The image shows a 19-year-old Isabella, bruised and wrapped in a blanket, standing beside a young bus driver in a reflective safety vest. Both of them are outside what appears to be an abandoned warehouse with police cars and ambulances in the background. "This was taken 8 years ago, 20 minutes after Ethan found me," Isabella says, holding the photo up to the live stream cameras. "I'd been missing for 6 days. The ransom demands were escalating. My family had exhausted every resource, every connection, every private security firm in the country. Heroism." She pauses, looking at Ethan with an expression that bridges years of gratitude and guilt. Ethan was driving the Route 47 bus past the warehouse district when he heard screaming from a building that was supposed to be empty. He could have kept driving. He could have called 911 and let someone else handle it. Instead, he stopped the bus, grabbed a crowbar from his emergency kit, and broke down a door. The macro spike hits when Isabella reveals details that none of the live stream audience expected. "The kidnappers had been using me to extort cryptocurrency payments from my family's business accounts. They had already received $12 million and were preparing to demand more before," she gestures toward Ethan, "before a bus driver decided that hearing someone scream was enough reason to risk his life." Ethan's memories flood back now, the door splintering under the crowbar, the smell of fear and concrete, a young woman chained in a basement, her voice hoarse from screaming, the way she looked at him like he was an angel instead of just a city employee who couldn't mind his own business. "I remember the scar," Isabella says softly, pointing to Ethan's left hand where a diagonal line runs from his thumb to his wrist. "You cut yourself breaking the chain off my ankle. You bled on my dress while carrying me to the bus." Maya looks up at her father's hand, seeing the familiar scar in a completely new light. "Bah, is that where you got hurt saving her?" But the first twist is still coming. Isabella pulls out her phone and opens a banking app that most people will never see. The interface for managing Reinhardt family assets. She shows the screen to the cameras. The black card was activated 3 times in the past 8 years, but not by Ethan. The revelation sends shockwaves through the parking garage. The livestream chat explodes with confusion. "What does that mean? Someone else used his card? Identity theft?" Isabella's voice grows stronger as she continues. "My uncle, Harrison Reinhardt, is a member of our board of directors. He's been using Ethan's card to make untraceable transactions, believing that no one would question charges made by a bus driver who supposedly didn't even know the card existed." The second twist hits like lightning. Harrison has been laundering money through dozens of shell companies, using Ethan's name as cover. "The FBI approached our family last month with evidence of financial irregularities tied to this card. My uncle convinced us it was identity theft, that someone had counterfeited our exclusive card." She looks directly at the livestream camera. "But tonight proves the card is real, which means my uncle has been deliberately framing an innocent man for his crimes. The 3 harassers who started the evening planning to intimidate a woman for entertainment now realize they've accidentally exposed a multi-million-dollar conspiracy." Ethan stares at the black card, finally understanding why he's never heard of it, despite it bearing his name. "Your family has been protecting me from something I didn't even know existed." "The opposite," Isabella says, tears flowing freely now. "We've been protecting ourselves by keeping you in the dark. If you'd known about the card, you might have tried to use it, which would have exposed Harrison's fraud immediately. Maya tugs on her father's jacket, confused by the adult conversation, but sensing its importance. "Bah, are you in trouble?" Before Ethan can answer, Isabella kneels down to Maya's eye level, her CEO composure completely gone, replaced by something raw and human. "Your father is the most honest man I've ever met," she tells the little girl. "My family owes him everything, and instead of protecting him, we've been using him. That ends tonight." She stands and addresses the cameras directly. "I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Harrison Reinhardt will be removed from all positions and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Every transaction made with this card will be investigated." The lead harasser, still holding the black card, suddenly realizes he's been live streaming the exposure of a federal crime. His earlier mockery has transformed into accidental journalism. "So this guy," he says, pointing at Ethan with new respect, "is actually the victim of identity theft by one of the richest families in America?" "Victim of our cowardice," Isabella corrects. "We should have honored him properly 8 years ago, instead of hiding behind legal protections and family politics." The parking garage fills with the kind of silence that comes when people witness justice emerging from injustice. The live stream audience, which began the evening mocking a working man's apparent delusions, is now watching corporate corruption being exposed in real time. Ethan looks at the Polaroid photograph, then at Isabella, then at Maya, who's clutching his bus driver badge like it's the most valuable thing in the world. "All these years," he says quietly, "I thought I was just doing my job that night." "You were," Isabella replies, "the job of being human when humanity mattered most." Maya steps forward and carefully touches the black card, her small finger tracing the engraved letters of her father's name. "Bah, this proves you're important." Ethan kneels beside his daughter, his voice gentle but firm. "Maya, we were always important. We just didn't need a card to prove it." The livestream audience, now numbering in the hundreds of thousands, watches a single father teach his child about worthwhile accidentally exposing one of the biggest financial frauds of the decade. Within hours, the parking garage livestream becomes the most shared video on social media, but not for the reasons anyone expected. Federal agents arrive at the scene while the cameras are still rolling, having been monitoring Harrison Reinhardt's financial activities for months. Agent Sarah Chen approaches Isabella with a tablet full of evidence. "Ms. Reinhardt, we've been building a case against your uncle for 18 months. This live stream just provided the final piece we needed." She shows the screen to the cameras. Bank records, shell company formations, cryptocurrency transactions, all tied to the black card bearing Ethan's name. Harrison Reinhardt has moved over $40 million through accounts using Mr. Ward's identity. "We couldn't prove the card was legitimate until tonight, when you confirmed its authenticity." The three harassers who started the evening planning to humiliate strangers for entertainment now realize they've accidentally assisted a federal investigation. Their phones captured everything: Isabella's confession, the evidence of fraud, and the revelation of an 8-year conspiracy. But the most profound changes happen in the quiet moments between the chaos. Isabella sits on a concrete parking barrier, still holding the faded Polaroid, while Maya examines the black card with the serious attention only children bring to important mysteries. "Why did your family wait so long to tell my daddy about this?" Maya asks with 8-year-old directness. Isabella struggles to find words that can bridge the gap between adult complexity and childhood clarity. "Because we were scared. Your daddy doesn't need our money or our power, and that makes him dangerous to people who think money and power are the only things that matter." Maya nods solemnly, as if this makes perfect sense. "Bull always says the best people don't want to be in charge." The comment hits Isabella harder than any board meeting or corporate negotiation ever has. She spent 8 years building an empire, accumulating power and influence, partly motivated by the trauma of helplessness she experienced during the kidnapping. Ethan, meanwhile, is processing the revelation that his name has been attached to crimes he didn't commit, debts he didn't incur, and power he never sought. "Agent Chen," he says quietly, "what happens now? Am I going to be arrested for what Harrison did?" "The opposite. You're the victim of identity theft on a scale we've rarely seen. Harrison used your heroic reputation as cover for his activities, Knowing that no one would suspect a bus driver of sophisticated financial crimes, she pauses, looking at the crowd of phones still recording. Your name is about to be cleared very publicly. Harrison's crimes will be front-page news, and your role as an innocent victim will be part of that story. But Ethan doesn't look relieved. He looks tired. Ma'am, I just want to go home with my daughter and fix electrical problems for people who need their lights to work. I don't want to be famous for being a victim. Isabella stands up, brushing concrete dust from her evening dress. What if you didn't have to be either famous or a victim? She turns to address the live stream cameras directly. The Reinhardt Foundation is establishing a new program, the Everyday Heroes Initiative. Instead of waiting for tragedies to create heroes, we're going to support people who choose to help others in small, daily ways. She looks at Ethan and Maya. Your father will be our first advisor, helping us identify and support people who do important work without seeking recognition. Bus drivers, security guards, maintenance workers, single parents, people who keep the world running while others chase headlines. Maya claps her hands together. Bah, that means you get to help other people help people. The simplicity of her excitement cuts through all the adult complications. Ethan kneels beside his daughter, the bus driver badge still warm in his pocket. What do you think, Maya? Should we help them learn how to help people the right way? Yes, but can I help too? Isabella kneels beside them, the three of them forming a small circle while hundreds of thousands of people watch through phone screens. Maya, you've been helping all along. You taught your father that being brave matters more than being rich. Tonight, you taught me the same thing. The federal agents finish collecting evidence while the media circus continues around them. But in their small circle, something more important is happening. Three people are figuring out how to turn trauma into purpose, how to transform exposure into protection for others. As the evening winds down and the parking garage finally empties of cameras and officials, Ethan makes a decision that surprises everyone. He picks up the black card, which has been sitting on the concrete like a piece of evidence, and hands it back to Isabella. This was never really mine, he says. It was your family's way of managing guilt. Keep it, but use it differently. Isabella accepts the card, but immediately hands it to Maya. What do you think we should do with this? Maya holds the card up to the light, watching her father's name gleam under the fluorescent bulbs. We should give it to someone who needs it more than us. That's what Ba would do. The live stream audience, still watching through the few phones that haven't been put away, witnesses an 8-year-old girl solving a corporate ethics problem with the kind of moral clarity that adults spend decades trying to rediscover. Isabella takes the card back and, in full view of the cameras, breaks it in half. The Everyday Heroes Initiative doesn't need exclusive cards or special access. It needs people who understand that real power comes from choosing to help when no one's watching. The broken pieces of the black card fall to the concrete like confetti, marking the end of one story and the beginning of another. 1 month later, the Reinhardt Foundation headquarters hosts its first Everyday Heroes Initiative ceremony. The hall is filled not with wealthy donors in designer clothes, but with bus drivers, security guards, teachers, nurses, and single parents who've been quietly keeping their communities together. Ethan and Maya sit in the front row, not as honored guests, but as advisors helping identify recipients. Maya wears a small pin shaped like a bus, the new symbol of the initiative. Isabella takes the stage, no longer wearing the polished armor of corporate power. Her speech is simple and direct. A month ago, I learned that true wealth isn't about what you can buy. It's about what you're willing to give when no one's watching. She gestures toward the audience. Every person in this room has made that choice. You've picked up the phone when someone needed help. You've stayed late to make sure someone got home safely. You've shared your lunch with someone who had none. The ceremony includes something unprecedented. Instead of giving awards to the heroes, they're being asked to nominate others. Each recipient gets resources to support someone else in their community who needs recognition. When it's Ethan's turn to speak, he keeps it brief. Maya asked me once why people pick on others who can't fight back. I used to think it was because they were mean. Now I think it's because they've forgotten that helping people is supposed to feel normal, not heroic. He looks at his daughter, who's been carefully holding something in her lap throughout the ceremony. Today, Maya wants to give away the most valuable thing we own. Maya stands and walks to Isabella, carrying Ethan's old bus driver badge. The worn piece of metal catches the stage lights as she places it in Isabella's hands. This helped my daddy save you. Now it can help you save other people. Isabella accepts the badge with shaking hands, understanding that she's being entrusted with more than metal. She's being given the responsibility to carry forward a legacy of ordinary heroism. The audience stands in spontaneous applause, but Maya isn't finished. She pulls out a small card she's made herself, decorated with drawings of buses and stars. "This is better than a black card," she announces to the room. It says, "Thank you for helping. Anyone can have one if they promise to help someone else." The ceremony ends with hundreds of handmade cards being distributed throughout the audience, each one a reminder that the most powerful currency isn't credit, it's gratitude shared forward. As the evening concludes, Ethan and Maya walk home together, their steps light with the knowledge that sometimes blocking someone's path opens up roads for everyone else. If you believe true wealth is honor, not money, subscribe Hero Dad Stories and tell us, who would you block the path for?